Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Max and today we're going to be doing more pinball at the IceBox Arcade in Ballard, Seattle, Washington. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just curious about playing pinball, this vlog is for you. Let's get flipping. So I'm at the IceBox today. Well, I took this last night and it was freezing. We're having cold weather. I'm in what we call the Beehive Room, where we have a ton of classic games and a new section in the back that Alex, the owner of IceBox, helped to create and provide for us. So whether you're looking to play a bunch of really cool classics games, or if you're looking to see this really interesting back room, it's all over there in Ballard and Fremont. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with the place. I'm just making sure if you've never been here, it's definitely worth going. A lot of games here. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool games. Let's get to it. So today, one of the first things I thought about doing for this particular video today was just a lot of Shatzing. I wanted to do Shatz practice. I just loved some of the games that are available here. And Shatzing is just kind of a underestimated skill when you're just learning. You don't really realize that it could be exactly what you need to do in some of the games. So we have here Stern 9 Ball. Stern 9 Ball, this has a alternative ROM on it, I believe. Somebody mentioned this to me, and essentially the rule set is a little bit different than your classic game. And well, you know, it's a classic game. It's a
good start too.
It's a tough one. Like, all these games are set up pretty hard, and I just really enjoyed 9 Ball because I was practicing it off camera, and I realized, like, hey, I could just get away with Shatzing to get a lot of the balls here. So while I'm still working on getting everybody like the best possible camera angle, I hope that this vlog also serves as a interesting thing to listen to, so you don't need to always see what's happening, or you could just tune in. I'll try to give you a heads up. So yeah, Stern 9 Ball is basically the kind of game where you need to collect the balls that are flashing on the left. They're drop targets. There's multiple ways to doing it. There is a not a drop target, pop bumper on top right. That is a collect ball option. Additionally, the rollovers kind of work for this too. So that's why I picked it as a great Shatz game, because I felt like if I could just get on the roll here with the Shatzing and just get like I think 6 or 7 balls on the rollovers, then I would be on the way to getting the ball trapped and locked for a multi-ball. And by the way, yes, this game does have a multi-ball. I just was not able to get that during this particular filming session. You know, I feel a little rusty. I have been dealing with a lot of stuff lately, but I really am interested in creating this like cool content for people to kind of listen to, and hopefully provide like food for thought and, you know, teaching moments for people, as well as exposing them to games they may not have had a chance to play before. So Stern 9 Ball is definitely one of those games where I feel like this is the only place I've ever seen it, and I hope that if you have one nearby you, you get to go and enjoy it more, because you never realize how special like the game that you have around you is until you've gone somewhere else. And you're like, oh, it's either there, or it plays differently, or it's not there. So let's cut to the action, huh? I'm watching this pretty closely, and I can see I'm getting these freaking Shatzes done. It's super fun to like kind of hit the Shatz and make the strategy that have come to vision. Usually with this game, I'm targeting, you know, somewhere around like 300k as a score that I could probably set as, you know, difficult to beat for some people. And, you know, obviously there's room to improve there. You know, at this point on my first game of the night, I'm like barely even at 100k. And like I said, the camera will eventually improve once I figure out all that situation, but right now I'm kind of using a buddy's DJI action cam and setting it up with a tripod and just trying to, make it visible. So that's why Shatzing was a big focus today. So to see, I think there's going to be a few games before my Shatzing really pops off here. Like I said, I was rusty, but what is a Shatz, basically? Like, you are going to be flipping with the ball towards the edge of the flipper in the direction of the other flipper, in the sense that it goes through and rolls up the rollover. There's a lot of great games over here at the Icebox for practicing your Shatzing, and some of them it's almost completely necessary to be able to do it to be successful at this location. I'm remembering how painful the second game was. I think I just had 3 straight drains. Like, if you were watching the last few minutes, you saw one down the center, one down the left, and then this one down the right. So that was 50 cents in 60 seconds. Twice there's luck, I guess. You can't drain it like that 2 times, otherwise you're just incredibly unlucky, I guess. So this 9 Ball is one of my favorite games because the scoring options on it aren't super obvious. It really draws you into going for the targets and getting that multi-ball going. I will say that's a very difficult option to do, and that's why I chose kind of Shatzing to eliminate the ball in the top of the play field, going left to right and possibly coming out. That was kind of the intention with the game. One of my go-to things to do is, if I end up with the ball on the left flipper, to try and rip the spinner when needed. But I would rather just hit these Shatzings correctly. I recall not quite hitting them very well. I was definitely trying to slow it down and make it work and make sure I was doing it correctly. And then I also kind of just got, little the ball's in the air and I'm just going to do some stuff. I noticed as well that there's a little orbit on the top of this game that gives you more and more points. However, I think that's just a really dangerous strategy. So this game did cross the 100K mark. Well, not quite, because I plunged and drained. So this is my ball 3 here. I'm going to be looking to just immediately start Shatzing and getting those rollovers. I felt my timing was a little off. I just was not able to get it, so I just started telling myself, trap it up after this. You see him trapping up now and taking the time to hit it. And the nice thing about Shatzing is, as long as you are doing it correctly, you probably have a safer option of playing the ball, versus when you start missing and hitting it up, you're going to be worse off than just, aiming for the stuff that matters in this game. And like I said, my high score on this, I think, previously I'd crossed the 500K mark on this game. I believe the grand champion on this game is something who knows how it got hit or why it's even there, but it's hard for me to imagine how I get that grand champion at this point. I'm not a Alani or a Richie, type player. I'm a little bit more of a head-to-head player, where I'll look at my opponent and say, okay, I got to turn it up and try and put this kind of score up on the game by doing these different scenarios. Whereas I feel the difference between me and those players is they tend to be a little bit more focused on playing through the game, going through all of the necessary components to make a game pretty good. They're also, I would say, probably more technically excellent. Some of the nudges and some of the tap passes I've seen from Richie are just absolutely mind-blowing to me, and it's definitely something I want to practice and keep doing that. You can't get better at pinball without practicing, and one of the things I felt like would be a great first tip for this channel is if you are playing a game and you feel like you want to spend the time just literally mastering one shot, you should feel free to do that. Like, there's no reason why every game has to be the same old, like the starter mode and the starter multi-ball. Like, for example, with Mandalorian, you could just like strictly go after, different things on the game rather than the mode and the multi-ball. And that's how I learned, like, the encounter is kind of a fun way to play the game sometimes. Also, like, I forget what it's called, the orbits, they're orange, is also another fun way to play a game where you just keep getting, Beskar and making the Beskar shot kind of work for you instead of trying to get to it instead. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this one? This particular game, I was noticing that my live catches on the left were actually much better at getting the rollover than just trying to Shatz it. Don't know why that is. Maybe it's the way the game was set up. Who knows? Like, I just was playing it, and that was an observation I had. Just a moment ago, I managed to get the ball to go into the, the multi-ball lock for this game. And, through that time, I've also had a few cool, like, post-pass saves. And one of the things I'm still trying to learn how to do in this game is progress once I get that ball locked, because I'm so used to playing it and just trying to practice those shots and see if I can get the balls going, that I don't really know what else I want to be doing to get, like, good points immediately. In that last ball, you can see the spinner was lit, and I was just trying to get that spinner going, and it just resulted in, like, down the middle situation. Every time you start the ball on this game, it's going to be a new set of targets that you need to keep working on. So it's not very easy to, for example, like in a different modern game, lock a ball and then do it again on ball 2 and then get all of them done on ball 3. So that's kind of the challenge of this, like, 9-ball. It's just, it really doesn't want you to, like, progress in a way that, like, kind of makes sense. For example, right next to it is a Grand Lizard, and there's been so many times where I've seen, like, somebody lock a ball, or I've locked the ball, drain the ball, and the opponent is just like, hey, I'll take it, free multi-ball off the plunge, and that might be the reason why you lose. So 9-ball is a little bit, like, harder to do in that situation.
One of the better ones, for sure.
So let's see what's happening next. I've got a few cool games for you tonight. Obviously, we've been on 9-ball for a little bit. Afterwards, I move on to Quicksilver, and then after that, I move on to Centaur. All of these games, I feel like, have, Shatzing elements to them to keep the theme of today's video in line. The other few games I played that night I didn't include in this video were Dirty Harry and Mandalorian. Again, just kind of experimenting with this camera, and would love to hear, like, do you feel like I don't really personally, I think it needs some improvement, but part of the vlog is just to give you something to listen to. Like, if you're at work and you're just thinking about pinball but you can't quite, like, sit and watch something, you can listen to it. I'm going to be trying to create something every week that will help you get some food for thought and maybe lead to some level of improvement or more enjoyment of the game. What else can I say about this particular game that I was noticing as a skill? And that would be nudging. This becomes a lot more prominent in the next game, so why not just talk about it? The next game is going to be Quicksilver, and one of the things that absolutely just is super difficult about it is the fact the slings are just above the right outlane. So there is like an angle where the ball can easily like kind of drop out and gone, basically, because of how it's coming in. So you have to be thinking constantly about that nudge. And one of the things that I find, is super critical in a game is being able to read those outlane runs that the ball is making and making the necessary like nudge. And sometimes it's just not enough. You have to realize, like, with the older games, like, you have a lot more to work with in terms of a tilt setting. Sometimes a tilt, like a nudge on 9-ball might result in double danger on like a Stern pinball game. So the difference is pretty drastic, and you've got to be able to make those adjustments accordingly. Like, especially with the older games, when you practice them, you want to be able to understand how they react to certain moves, because in the past I've seen games get lost on a bad nudge because you lost your bonus on one of these games. And in the past I've seen games get won because somebody made just the bigger move that would have saved the ball, and while you think like, hey, I would have tilted out on some Stern Mandalorian or something like that. This game is a little bit more like, please use the full extent of your tilt bob and always practice to see exactly what you can do with that. It was definitely like a key thing that I saw in the state championships that happened a few weeks ago, where players were taking their practice balls to kind of find their shots, and then to shake the game and find out exactly where that particular setting is for them, so they can adjust accordingly. So at this point we switched over to 9-ball, and there's definitely going to be moments of nudging on this. There's always going to be like, some action happening for me when I'm trying to keep it from going off the outlane. That is super important. Timing is important. The energy is important. How much you're pushing into the game, and ultimately, I came into this saying I'm going to Shatz to the left, and hopefully have it come back to the left flipper somehow like this, and then rip that spinner. The first game, it took me a little bit to kind of get back in the flow. Like I said, I've been like kind of not practicing or playing these games as much as I would like to, but I do love the concept of today's video where Shatzing is happening. In fact, if you're listening to this, why don't you like tell me a time like you did like a Shatz, or think about a game that you did a Shatz, and tell me like, did it really like work for you to just go into a game to try and Shatz, or in that particular situation to do it? Because it's super nice to hear like, that skill saved you or made your entire game work well because of it. And Quicksilver is a great example of how this game works with Shatzing. The point of Quicksilver, there's a few different ways to play it, and ultimately at the IceBox you're going to see a little bit of everything from everyone, but the most common thing that I will see is trying to get the rollovers going, which requires a Shatz over, which is incredibly dangerous because of the way those outlanes are shaped, to getting that spinner a good solid rip while it's lit. That's one solid way to just kind of put yourself up. Like in that rip, I went from 250 to about 324, so what, like 70k, 75k points. Super important to like keep doing that consistently and make way more points than somebody who's trying to do anything else. At least if they're in an urgent, like, ball 3 situation. So the other few ways I know about playing this, I've heard about people who take advantage of the left, like, saucer. It does have some good points here, but on this game, Stern Quicksilver, it also is just not set up well. Set up the way that you think would be conducive here. So you'll see that a lot of my right flipper shots are just kind of going up there, but never quite like working their way into that saucer. The last way, and this is actually like a complementary thing to the first strategy I was talking about, is you are working on the right drop targets. I know it's not the best view for you to see them, but you have the two spinners on this game. If you're really familiar with the game, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, I really suggest taking a look at a picture of the playfield, and you'll see what I mean, because there's two spinners on either side that get lit by the rollover. So in this case, when I'm trying to shatz to the left and get it up on the left rollover, it lights the right spinner. And as you'll see later on, I start to kind of get dialed in. I make that shatz, get the rollover, and rip the spinner. Right now, it's just kind of a learning, like where's that shot at? I took one shot and I missed it. I took the other and I just grazed that spinner enough to lose that bonus going. Calling it bonus or whatever. But that's exactly what I was thinking with Shatzing on this today. By the way, I was talking about, the last way to really utilize the points and where that right spinner is. If you are doing the shots to the left and then shooting for the right spinner from the left flipper, there are 3 drop targets that build your bonus by 1, 2, 3, 4x, whatever. It starts at 1, goes 2, 3, 4, and your green bubbles are the amount of bonus you have. So obviously, like, everybody likes getting more points. The rollover, the bonus X is a great way, especially on classics, to really emphasize like a good game, because I believe like the drop targets all add like an extra bonus point. There is a little star like rollover, I think they're called, on the top that should add to the bonus, and you really just want to keep like getting multiplied bonus as much as you can on any game, especially these classics that we're playing today. So one of the games I have today will definitely show that. Once I start to get in the groove with this shots and shooting that spinner or whiffing the spinner, I'll be making that like bonus way more like apparent. Something I learned about this game the other night was, post passing is just not like always an option like on some of the games. And one thing I would definitely recommend to people, if you cannot make the post pass, you should try to go for the shots. Just watching myself bobble that one, I just was trying to be patient and I did not quite make it. But it's good to remember that when you are like trying a certain skill or trying something in particular and it doesn't work, there's probably a more efficient way to do it. So, for example, like instead of taking a flip at a ball, like a dead bounce might be like super necessary. And if you are new to the game, you might not know what a dead bounce is, but it's basically you don't touch the flipper. You just let the ball kind of hit the rubber at an angle that allows it to bounce and lose momentum and go to the other flipper. So where in one case you might shoot it, the other case you would let it bounce and you'd have it trapped. And like I said, in the first case you might end up getting the shot you need, or you might miss it and create more chaos. In the second scenario, you created this perfect storm of you've got the ball, you can take your time to shoot, and you don't have to like keep stressing about that. And there it is. If you were just watching, there was just one of my first successes of shots to spinner. They're going to be coming in pretty hot now at this point. I do realize that the video could be improved. However, I'm just keeping this positive. I think everybody could use a little bit of positivity today, especially if you're going to be listening and watching this video. At least, it's here. It's better than not having it. The effort I'm putting into this is going to improve over time, and hopefully so will you, and it's just going to be like something we'll all enjoy together as a journey. So you'll see that I just got the first bonus, like blinking there. That spinner was lit, and I took a nice solid rip on it, and I just keep like getting my rollovers going, and I felt like this particular night I was struggling on that left spinner, but that right spinner was just absolutely like my jam. So it's always good to remember like, what your favorite side of the game is, and just keep that consistent, especially if it's a close match. So in this case, like, my left side felt a lot better for everything: the rollover, the ball, the flipper, um, and the right side. The spinner is great and the drops are great, but I'd rather get it back to the left as soon as possible. So some good games here. I believe that was an 800K score. I'm kind of watching this from my computer, so I'm not sure I got it properly. The the power drains are gonna happen sometimes. Twice there's luck. There's no way you can be that unlucky unless you are. Just like that. This is such a tough position to be in when you're playing pinball. You've already gone through 2 balls. You've watched your opponent get to play more than multiple flips that you have, and that's why it's good to keep a consistent strategy on what you're doing and just be a little bit more urgent about accuracy. So in this case, I really wanted that left rollover, right spinner, and that was the first thing I did in this game. And then I got it back to the left flipper. I'm going for the right rollover, got it, getting the dead bounce, back to the right flipper. Really need to hit the spinner correctly, and I just kind of whiffed the shot, but that was it. That was a slight attempt to Shatz there as well. I don't know if you noticed how close it was to just going straight out, but that was definitely just enough to get the ball back to the right flipper and hit that spinner. And we're back into this flow of rollover, left flipper, right spinner, and hopefully keeping it safe to get some points back. So already back at 300K. When I started the ball, barely 10,000 or whatever, and then that happened. So you never know where you might miss or whatever, and keeping your focus on the objective at least helps you visualize what you want to do in the situation you are. So I started a new game here. I believe that we want to just continue going for that left rollover and right spinner. Here's another cool tip that I actually kind of figured out with Shatzing is Shatz is not a one flip move. You essentially want to flip that left flipper out of a precaution of, hey, the ball's not going to make it up the rollover, or whatever. It's almost slightly later slap save timing, which means that you're trying to get the ball in there, but you're planning for it to kind of get rejected and be able to get some rubber on that thing so it doesn't go out. So that whole series that just happened there is a great example of it. I wanted the rollover, I had to flip to save it, the ball was going to be bouncing with its own momentum, and I just needed to really be cautious about my timing and focused on the goal that I'm trying to achieve here. I will go back to the other thing I said earlier. In this particular Quicksilver, that right out lane is just absolutely scary to be near. So any chance I had to push. So if you look at a game pretty closely, there's not just the rubbers on the slings and the rubbers on the flipper, but they're all over the play field. There's different surfaces that have it. And the important thing to remember is that pushing the game affects the ball equally on that level, just as much as the slings or the out lanes. When you are playing Quicksilver and the ball is hitting kind of where this yellow target is on the top, on the middle right over there, right where it is right now, start pushing the game to the left. Try to create some momentum of the ball to go where you want it to go, versus standing and watching and waiting for it to go. And that works the other way too. Sometimes you push the game and you can push it into the out lane. So there's a fine balance to be found. We've got our next game coming up here. That game is Centaur. I love Centaur. Centaur is a beautiful game. This one is just a gorgeous looking game, and it's one of the cooler games out there. That being said, I came here, I said, hey, I'm going to play Centaur. I know this game. I'm sure I can make it look good on camera. It's set up pretty hard. It's not going to look super pretty. I think there's going to be one or two moments where I manage to get like the Shatzing to roll over to effectively work. Because in this game, that Shatzing will lead to getting your blue orbs filled out. However, like, I couldn't tell what it was. Like, the flippers are pretty steep. The game is pretty steep. You know, that's just the way it is sometimes. Like, it's just hard to get the ball trapped. And it didn't seem. I feel like the game was steep enough that it didn't seem like the little posts on the outlane worked the way that I would like to see them work. That's okay. You know, I can't change everything. All I can do is practice and say, hey, like the chances of you saving this are pretty slim, but testing how hard it takes. In that case, you just saw it. How hard it takes to get it through is important to know because it could mean the difference between saving the ball and setting a better score versus tilting a ball, which would be devastating on this game, especially if you're getting the drop targets on left. In that case, that entire game was all left out lanes. One of them kind of bounced in, but then it went out. So you always got to be ready to know exactly what the movement is and what you're trying to do. I do see some room for improvement on my own filming here, so I'll do my best to make it a little bit more accessible going forward so you can see a little bit more of that back playfield action. But like I said, today is just a pure Shatzing like experiment. Like 9-ball is a great game to Shatz. This game should be ideal to Shatz with. It's just fast and hard, and that's just the way it is. You see I got the Shatz there, and I was not able to time it correctly to get both the rollovers, which is super ideal. And the way that I visualize this game working perfectly is you do it on the left, you do it on the right, you get your multi-ball going, you end up with the ball trapped on your left side, and you're just taking rips at the drop targets that give you more bonus and multiply it on the left side as well. Again, if you know the game, you probably understand what I'm talking about. If you don't, I would definitely recommend taking the time to check it out if you see one near you, or if you want to just go look at the playfield pictures. It's a great way to just see what is happening. This game is very hit big on a few key skills here. Live catches. Obviously accuracy for everything. Nudging, especially because you don't want to see the ball bounce towards the outlane at all. You want to see the ball bounce in towards the flipper where you can live catch it. Ideally, trapping would be a huge skill, but it felt like this game did not want to let me get away with traps. So I was just really forced to just keep things moving, going for the shots. I keep forgetting the ideal score for me on this game. It really just depends on the location. I played the 5-ball one at Shorty's in Belltown, Seattle, and I put up like insane, like a few million on it, and it was just taking forever to play through that. And then I played this one the other night at IceBox, and I was like, wow, I can barely like get 500 to 700k, and I believe that the replay of this one was set to 1.2 million. And if you get that, that's awesome. I'm happy for you, but I just was honestly like, I don't see how anybody's able to do it. Like, flippers are so steep, the game is so fast that like trying to spell the orb, which is the center for targets, felt like it was just impossible with the way the there's a save. We got one out the left. I think out of 7 tries this point, I've only got the one. So that was it, and I'm still playing no tilt. Huge example of why it works. So let's see. I'm gonna be trying to get the Shatzing. I'm gonna be trying to get that drop target. The ball is just moving super duper freaking fast, and just was not able to recreate the earlier left out line save. So fortunately, over 500k with that. I believe it's 610. Grand Champions at about 3 million, which if it was a little bit easier, I feel like I could make a run at, but that was just not meant to be last night. So we're going to be going for the Shats. We got the left orb, which is it's like a little like blue thing. I'm not sure it's called orb. It's like a quick lock or something. We got all 4 of them. So here comes a multi-ball. This is a 2-ball multi-ball. I'm going to lose that ball on the right. That's just, you know, the way it is. Like, one ball hits the other in the air. The game is already super draining. So, goodbye. I don't believe that second time would be viable, but I keep going for it. I got the rollover on the right to collect. And you can see I'm going for the shots pretty hard there. Just not quite getting that target of hitting the shots accurately last night. So, it's a skill that you definitely want to practice. Like, when you pass it through the left in lane, you get the opportunity to collect something important on that rollover. There's a few games where that is actually like, you know, a genius feature where Keith put the ability to do that in Iron Maiden, and you never realize it, but it's always an option, especially with the newer Sterns, if you really need to. Like, one of the things that's really cool about the newer generation of players that I'm seeing is they're using Shatzes. I want to call it like a Shatz save, where the ball is coming down the center just enough that they get the flipper on the ball instead of hitting it back up in a chaotic manner. They hit the ball into the in lane and create this like safe opportunity to continue playing, which is super duper clutch when you're like thinking about trying to beat some of the best players in the world. Like, when you're in a dangerous situation, you always want to try and, you know, mitigate like the risk of what happens after like a drain, like, and if your opponent goes off on you next, like, how are you going to win? Statistically, this is just like, you know, almost common sense. Like, you will do better at games when you set a better score first. Sagel made an interesting point a few years ago in, I believe it was the skill shot scene, where he said, I'd rather go first. Because when you're the first player, you get the opportunity to ignore what's happening. You just stand there, you play the game the best you can, and then you hand the game off to your opponent, who's player 2. Obviously, like, this is a super important like mindset to have when you're trying to avoid getting eliminated in a game. And it's a totally different mindset when you're player 2, because player 2, you obviously like are going to be playing to beat the other player's score. So if player 1 puts up like, you know, 1 million on ball 1 and you put up 2 million on ball 1, you've already created the pressure for them to come back and win. So why not just do that as player 1 to begin with and avoid all of that pressure? So like I said, statistically, it's obvious. Like, you will want to be putting those points up ASAP and achieving the objectives of doing things versus allowing your opponent to set the tone. And I think that's just a pretty standard, you know, way to approach things. So this is the second time in the video that I got the rollovers. I got the multi-ball, and then I proceeded to kind of bobble and lose the ball for the first ball I had. So it's kind of like free ball save. But working on that shots, I found that with Centaur, the left side seemed to be my favorite side. The right side, I was able to get it going. I just was a little bit more, I think that was just the result of all the games I was playing. I was a little bit less certain about was I able to do it, or if I'm just like, you know, having a little bit of bad luck or rusty or something like that. So, if you made it this far, feel free to leave, you know, your likes and comments on like what you appreciated about this. Obviously, like, I can't give myself credit here for having the best video work, but it would mean a lot to me to have some engagement and have some followers who say like, hey, you know, like, this is what really stood out for me. I'd love to hear more about these things. I think having those affirmations would be great, and telling yourself like, hey, I can do well at pinball. You know, sometimes it goes my way and sometimes it doesn't, and thankfully, like, just talking and listening to people talk about it makes me a little bit more aware of what's happening. So I hope that works out to be like a productive channel for you to subscribe to and that you get to see videos. A lot of ideas on the way here, though. this is all for me on the Shatzing episode. Thank you, everybody.